time.
All right, it is 7 o'clock, but we've got a couple people who are signing in, so I'm going to give them just a minute to finish that up. All right, would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. For those of you who may not be aware, I did not want to take the chair position again for this year because of things that are going on. And I reluctantly took it because no one on the board wanted it. But Gary has spoken to me and has decided that he is willing to take chair. And though this is on the agenda for later, I need to make the change tonight and now so that I can go. So the board, please accept my resignation from the zoning board, effective immediately. And Bonnie, as vice chair, it'll be up to you right now to open the meeting and get Gary on as chair and finish up your meeting, okay?
Do you need to stay here for that?
I do not. Okay. And good luck to all of you, and thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
So we find ourselves without a chair. Is there any discussion among the board members? We know that Gary is willing to take on the role.
Do you need a motion or anything like that?
Well, we do need a motion, but we could discuss it first.
Was it later on the agenda or is it
She,
now?
No.
Okay.
Teresa said no.
Because she wants a chair and it doesn't want to be her.
Right.
Yeah, so for discussion.
You'll have to appoint a couple board members, right?
Our previous meeting,
We can vote on you, yes. Teresa has resigned.
right,
So if there is no discussion, I'll ask for a motion from the board.
The alternates.
Did you want
An
to,
alternate?
yes, seats need
I
to
just
be
said, did
seated.
you want to appoint alternates?
Yeah, so we can vote. So we
Yeah,
can
so we just need one of you, right?
No, Romeo's missing too.
There are 5 members of the board.
Oh, you're alternate too?
I'm an alternate as well. Yeah,
Oh, I forgot,
Oh,
I
so
forget
we
you're an
have
alternate, I'm sorry.
I was elected.
So I will appoint. Is that okay? I will appoint you,
Okay,
Mary,
okay.
and Terry.
Thank you.
And now I will entertain discussion or a motion from the floor.
I make a motion that Gary Anderson be nominated for the chair.
I'll second it.
There's a motion on the floor to nominate Gary Anderson as the chair, seconded by Terry Bonzer, nominated by Dick Grotenhouse. All those in favor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
Those opposed? So the vote is, did you abstain? 4 to nothing. To nothing. So Gary,
Thank you, Gary, for taking that on.
Yes.
you can come over here and
Well, it's also gonna be unusual because I'm also representing the first case, so.
you'll have to,
You have to recuse yourself for that. And the vice chair will.
Yes. So,
You didn't get out of that bond.
I guess not.
move over quickly.
I did notice that, actually. Yeah, is this the same Gary Anderson? So,
So I'm just gonna announce the first case and then I'm gonna recuse myself. And that is case number 26-003, V.A. Johnson, 7 Lottie Lane. And Vice Chair, I'll leave you to just read the rest of that, if you will.
Case 26-003, VA Johnson, 7 Lottie Lane. Application from Gary Anderson on behalf of Nancy Johnson, requesting a variance from Article 2, Section C3A of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to permit building an addition to an existing structure within the setback for a non-conforming lot of less than 20 feet. The applicant's property is located at 7 Lottie Lane in Nottingham and is identified as tax map 63, lot 75. So
With that, I'll recuse myself.
Thank you. Are you going to present the case to the board? Please.
So I'd like to just give the board a background as the contractor for a renovation for this cottage on 7 Lottie Lane. I'll walk you through as soon as I get everything in front of me. And I think, Nancy, you might want to just state your name and.
Hello, my name's Nancy Johnson.
So Nancy is the owner at 7 Lottie Lane, and what we are looking at here is, you can see you have a floor plan, I think, in front of you, showing just 2 bathrooms and a utility room. And the reason we're coming before the board for this is that we're 7 feet short of the boundary, the setback, which is required, 20 feet is required for the setback there. But we're actually 6 feet short. We're 12 feet from the boundary. Just to get this 16-foot addition put in place. The pictures I'm missing would actually show that there was a 3/4 bath that was on the lot, was demoed to find out things about the footings on the cottage already. But that 3/4 bath was sitting on no footings, no foundation, and it was rotted. So at very least, the objective would be to replace that. But at the same time, Nancy and I felt that it would be sensible to give her a half bath in her bedroom. I'm sorry, a 3/4 bath in her bedroom and a half bath off her kitchen. Along with the utility room, which would house replacement service panel, and also at the same time would allow room for a well tank to be housed in there too. So in short, that's I think what we're looking for. You can also, well, I will actually go to the plot plan, and I think the board has copies of that. You can see that the lot's also very small. It's 0.13 acres, so not a lot to work with. So, and this is actually on the backside, away from the water, which doesn't pose any concerns being near the water. It's instead closer to Lottie Lane.
Can I just add one thing? And we had a small we called it an outhouse, but it was actually a flush toilet and a sink that was detached from the cottage in the back. You can probably see that in the picture too. And that has been taken down because it hasn't been in use for over 20 years. So that would replace the other bathroom.
Yeah, I see you have a new, this septic, when did you put the septic in? Is it 2023? I couldn't.
It was pretty, yeah, within the last, is it dated here?
3 years ago, I believe.
I think 3 or 4
Yeah, it's a little
years
It
ago.
looks like 2023.
Okay, then
Best I
yeah,
could see.
yeah.
I don't know. So, yeah, I mean, I went over there and I had never been to Lottie Lane.
Well, they changed it used
All
to
my
be White's
years, I've
Grove.
never-
It used to be White's Grove Road, but
Yeah.
they just changed the name like about the same time.
I know, I went over and found it.
Yeah,
And you put a new well in?
yes,
Your well?
yes. No, we just put a well in a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, just drilled
See
the
it
well.
drilled.
Yeah,
Was the other well, was that your well or was that your neighbor's well?
There's two. There's a neighbor's
Yeah,
well, and
right.
then there's a new well.
And I
Yeah.
see your line goes right down through
yes.
there.
Yeah.
And I could see where you dug up. Is that where the other building sat somewhat? Where you dug the
Yeah,
hole?
almost where that gray area for the was cut for the wash of the drilling of the well.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, it's not a very big lot.
Very small, actually.
Does anyone have any questions? I neglected to go over the procedure, but we allow the presenter to present. We allow then anyone who is in opposition to speak, and then anyone who's in favor to speak. So just know that if you're in the back waiting to say something, you'll have an opportunity. Do any members of the board have questions?
I guess just for clarification, if this is a new addition, the 8x16, is that correct?
Pardon me?
Is it a new construction for the 8x16? Is that the
Yes.
footprint of what would be
Well,
constructed?
and part of that, it is new because it's also replacing what was there, which was a 6x8 3/4 bath sitting on with no foundation or no footings.
Okay, that was my next question, is the footprint of the previous bathroom area, and you said 6x8, so roughly half this size,
Right,
or exactly half
yeah,
this
pretty
size.
close, yeah.
Okay, thank you. One other question then is, in that, the previous bathroom was located, it's hard to tell on the site plan, but where was that plan or the
It's
bathroom
on
located?
that little drawing, can you see?
No, so that's why I'm asking the question.
On the site plan, you can see a kind of a jog,
Yep.
and that actually is what was the 3/4 bathroom.
Okay, so it was closer to where maybe the half bath would be?
Exactly, so what we're proposing is to put the half bath where that 3/4 bath was, and then put the 3/4 bath over off of the bedroom.
Thank you.
Now, you could have slid the thing over, but you would be over the septic tank, right?
Right, we'd be
So you can't
too
do,
close to this
so
tank.
there's no way to move it this way, because you could have got it without a variance if you.
Oh, correct,
Yeah,
yes.
what you see on the plot plan is actually a screen porch sticking out towards the old 3/4
Right.
bath. So it would have been kind of
The
in the
tank
middle of
is, the
that.
tank is right there, the septic
Yes.
tank is, so you'd be kind of like right onto the tank.
Right, there's not a lot of room.
Everyone set? Thank you. Would anyone like to speak in favor of this application? There being no one, would anyone like to speak in opposition? Apparently not, so I will declare the public hearing closed. Sorry, that's way louder than I thought. Teresa.
Up a few people at home, like.
Sorry about that, people at home. It just looks like a little tiny thing.
Madam Chair, would you like me to walk through the
Yes,
criteria?
yes, I would.
Supporting information, so granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because there would be no substantial change in either appearance or the use of the property. Number two, the variance granted, if the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because the new addition would enhance the surroundings and would be farther from the boundary than the existing building. Number three, granting the variance would be substantial justice because the new structure would replace two structures that are in disrepair. Four, if the variance is granted, the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because by adding the proposed bathrooms and utilities would only add value to the surrounding properties. Number five, unnecessary hardship, owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. Denial of the variance would result in unnecessary hardship because no fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance, provisions, and specific application that provision to the property because there would only be enhancement of the existing property and there was no negative possibility to be found, thus leaving no viable reason for denial. 5.2, the proposed use is a reasonable one because of only betterment of the property resulting. B, explain how if the criteria in subparagraph A are not established, an unnecessary hardship would be deemed to exist and only if owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. The property cannot be reasonably used in strict conformance with the ordinance and a variance. Is there any necessary to enable a reasonable use of it? This request is to add 1 3/4 bath and utilities, which will translate to a viable well and to positively use of natural resources.
I sort of closed the public hearing before I should have. So I'm gonna, just in case anybody wants to address the 5 criteria that Gary just laid out for the board. Does anyone wish to speak? No. Okay. Do members of the board have any further questions?
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'll make a motion if it sounds like nobody else has a question. I would approve of granting this variance for case 626003 V.A. Johnson, 7 Lottie Lane.
Second. All those in favor of the motion on the floor, please raise your right hand.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Now you have a
Thank you.
bathroom.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
Good luck.
We now have our new chairman taking his seat, finally.
Okay, thank you. So we have another case, which is case number 26-004, V.A. Dudley, 147 Mitchell Road. A scenic road application from Robert and Angela Dudley, trustees of the Dudley Family Trust, requesting a variance from Article 3, Section B2 of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to permit construction of a new garage 21.7 feet from poorly drained soils where a 50-foot setback is required, and 25.4 feet from very poorly drained soils where a 75-foot setback is required. The applicant's property is located at 147 Mitchell Road, a scenic road in Nottingham, and is identified at tax map 7, lot number 8-14. Welcome.
Thank you, and good evening, new chair, and members of the board. Happy to be here. For the record, my name is Brett Allard with Shaughnessy Allard. I'm the attorney on this project, and joined to me to my right is Eric Salovich with Northam Survey, who was the surveyor on the project who prepared the plan that you have before you, that we just passed around some copies. They're exactly the same as what you already have in your packet, with the exception of we identified which wetland is the poorly drained and which is the very poorly drained. Other than that, those plans are the same. And then joined with me to my left are the owners, Robert and Angela Dudley, who hold title to this property in their capacities as trustees of their family trust. So, a little overview, 30,000 foot stuff. This is 147 Mitchell Road, locating in the residential agricultural district. The property right now is a little over 2 acres, 2.05 acres. And as you can see on the plan, it's improved with a single-family home, driveway leading to it, parking area down there by the house, and 2 existing sheds. There are existing wetland pockets located all over the place. We have the one in the rear, that's the poorly drained. There's one to the, I guess it would be the east side of the property, the lower part of the lot on the plan. There's a pocket there, and then there's the one, the very poorly drained that runs about 2/3 the length of the driveway up there at the top. What we're asking for is a variance from the wetland conservation overlay regulations requiring the 50-foot setback from the poorly drained, the hydric Bs, and the 75-foot setback from the very poorly drained, the hydric As. What we're proposing is a addition of a 24 by 24 detached garage in the location that's shown on the plan. That area is already disturbed to some extent, improved to some extent. As you can see, we're proposing to remove that shed that's sort of right in the middle of the proposed garage location. And then the maybe the 20% or so of the proposed footprint would actually occupy area that's already improved with the existing driveway. So we're 25.4 feet from that wetland up top and 21.7 feet from the wetland more towards the rear of the property. As I said, the wetland buffers encumber pretty much all of the upland area near the driveway on this property. Actually, most of the lot is impacted by either wetlands or their corresponding buffer. So if you look at the plan, the only upland on the area really is that small sliver in the area of the backyard where it says approximate leach field location. That small sliver of land is really the only buildable upland without encroaching to some degree into the protective buffers. Not a suitable location for a garage smack dab in the backyard, and certainly not with its restriction in terms of the existing leach field, and that location would, it's sort of an odd configuration and would really be too small for a garage anyways. Really, the garage can't be located elsewhere on the lot outside the buffers. There's nowhere else to put it. We think the proposed location is really the only practical area for it. But it is completely on dry upland. And again, that area is already disturbed to some extent with that driveway and with that shed. So we think the proposal minimizes any additional site disturbance in that respect. In terms of protecting the wetlands during construction, we've proposed some silt socks. You can see that on the plan. That'll help with erosion, runoff, etc. Both during and after construction. So we think that location of the garage, utilizing an already disturbed area, sort of, minimizes new clearing. It avoids having to expand the driveway, and it keeps the construction sort of clustered within the existing development area and avoids sort of fragmented additional site improvements. So before we filed this application, Eric attended 2 Conservation Commission meetings, one in person, one telephonically. There's a letter from the Conservation Commission in the application. There's some correspondence from Eric in response to that. If you have any questions about what happened at the Conservation Commission meetings or their recommendations or our clarifications on some of their recommendations, he's happy to speak about that. Otherwise, that's sort of the 30,000-foot view of what we're looking for and what we're trying to do. Unless the board has any sort of preliminary questions, I'd be happy to dive into the 5 criteria.
Just like to ask the board if they had a chance to look at the letter from Conservation Commission.
Yeah, and I'd like a little bit of a summary of what led to the letter here.
From our office?
Yep.
Yeah, so we had our first Conservation Commission meeting on March 9th. That meeting went very well from my notes. We spoke about not wetland classifications, but they wanted soil types and topography on the plan. They made a mention of that. Oh, that was at the second meeting. Sorry, excuse me. The first meeting on the 9th went very well. We actually added note 15 to the survey as a result of that meeting. They were talking about the turtle hatching period that comes up between May and July, and how these wetland pockets are significant to turtles in that area, which of course the Dudleys were on board with that. So we added that note. We talked about adding silt sock because that was the first version of the plan. We didn't have silt sock on the survey at that point in time. So we talked about adding silt sock, and I met with Mary and the Dudleys in the parking lot after that meeting, and thought it went very well. This is Mary from the construction company. And it wasn't until about a week and a half after that hearing that my office received a phone call. I think it was from Suzanne Mooney. I don't know if you guys may know her.
We do.
I don't really know her. And she left a voicemail that basically was telling us that the plan was incomplete. We didn't have topography and soils information shown on the survey. And they were gonna have I ended up calling her back, and we had a conversation, and they were gonna have a special meeting to discuss it. And I said I can add publicly available topography and publicly available soils information to the survey. Typically for a garage placement survey, we wouldn't do a full soils survey and or topography, because we can construct a 24 by 24 garage without the added expense to that level of a survey. They were okay with that, which is why we added note 16, and you can kind of see how these things are added on a time frame. So, the entire soil per NRCS soils is a 43B Canton fine, sandy loam, 0 to 8% slopes. We added the topography, so you can see there's some contour information here. The yard is relatively flat. There's a slight slope increase by the leach field, which gives you elevation 322. It drops down to 320, similarly egg shape around that and around the house, and then goes down to 318 as you get down into the wetland areas. And it starts rising back up to 320 into the back. That didn't satisfy the commission's concern at this special meeting. They wanted to have the wetland pockets identified as to what was poorly drained and what was very poorly drained. I gave them my best professional opinion on the matter, is that there is standing water on the wetland to the northwest of the driveway, and the wetland area in the rear of the lot is relatively insignificant. And the fact that if I went out there or a layman went out there, we probably wouldn't even know that that was a wetland area. It doesn't pass hydrology, it doesn't pass vegetation, but there is some saturated soils, which is why that is jurisdictional wetland. And that's why we hired a certified wetland scientist to do this delineation from the get-go. There was some confusion by the Conservation Commission as to why we were there before them. They kept making comments in regards to giving us an approval. I was simply stating that we're not looking for an approval, we're looking for a recommendation, because we knew that this project was going to require variance, and we knew that was going to come before you. And then there was a staff letter or meeting minutes written, or the recommendation letter written by the Conservation Commission, which I reviewed, and in speaking with Brett, wrote our response letter, which we felt was important for the zoning board to hear both sides of the story as we get to this point.
Thank you.
So
I guess just to wrap that up, from the first meeting with conservation, although that communication seemed to dwindle and peter out, when I was on the phone with them during that second special meeting, I was informing them of the very poorly drained and poorly drained wetland bodies, and they weren't accepting that answer from me. They wanted it from the wetland scientist. So I said, okay, and there is nothing that I can tell you right now on the phone to change your mind. So I'm gonna go. And I got off the phone and they hung up. I since circled back with Sergio Bonilla of Mission Wetland, and we classified those wetlands, which is why we have a revised plan tonight. Because there is a 25-foot no disturb buffer from very poorly drained, which is why the garage is placed slightly further away from the very poorly drained at 25.4 feet. And puts us kind of in that position that Brett was speaking of earlier.
Any further questions from, or further initial questions from?
I would just like to speak, having been at the conservation meetings. After the first look, we noticed the wetlands and we were very concerned because we wanted to know if they were poorly drained or very poorly drained, because that makes quite a significant difference.
Mhm.
And as part of the Conservation Commission, it's important to us to know, is it poorly drained? Because that requires one buffer and has one set of characteristics in terms of what's happening with the soil, what's happening with the wildlife. And if it's very poorly drained, it's a much bigger issue. And so we just wanted that delineation plus the topography, you know, how much of an incline is there? And you weren't forthcoming, I'm sorry. You just said, well, they're wet, they're poorly drained. But we wanted to know, is it very poorly drained? Is it hydric A or is it hydric B? And it took quite a while before you were willing to give us that information. You just kept saying, they're poorly drained. And we were just concerned with that because that's what our job is, to be concerned. Because we have these setbacks as part of our regulations and they're there for a reason. So that's all I'd like to say.
Yeah, I understand that now. I think during that first meeting and the special meeting in the beginning part of the communication, when we say add soils to the plan, I take that as add soil types, either by high intensity soil survey or by NRCS soils. So then we added note 16, but it didn't get the answer that the commission wanted. So I take responsibility for some miscommunication there during the first meeting. And I did have to get that answer with the very poorly drained soils from the wetland scientist, which took a little bit of time, and the timing didn't quite work out with the special hearing either. And I understand the concerns now, which is why we've added them to the plan. And thankfully, we did get far enough with the commission to get some positive paths forward by adding in some of these other recommendations. So hopefully we can still meet their intent and move forward with the ZBA.
Any other questions from the board?
I was just gonna make a statement that I went over there and, they have 2 acres, but they do have scattered wetlands around, quite a few spots. They have, the house is not big, it sits there, they have the leach field in the back, and, they want to put in what I would call a moderate sized garage. It's not a real big garage. And I mean, there's just no way to get, I think they've done the best they can to get as far away from the wetlands as they can. And they've been there 30 years, right? 35, so, I think sometime in your life you'd like a garage.
Right, we're getting closer to
especially after
retiring.
this last winter, yes.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I looked at it and the wetlands are marked, everything's marked, but they just really don't have any place else to go.
I did have just 1 or 2 questions. Well, one, back to the conservation letter. I noticed they mentioned a time frame for construction, and I'm wondering are you planning around that, or as it does say, and, commission members recommended to Dudley's that no construction be initiated until after mid-July, so not to unduly disturb amphibian reptile breeding season. So,
Everyone's agreeable to that.
And we added that, that's note 15 on the survey, addresses that recommendation.
I've got a couple of questions. So when you met with the Conservation Commission and then learned of the poorly drained soils, did that change the size of this garage or the placement of this garage?
No, we did shift the garage slightly. The initial placement split the difference between the two wetland bodies. So we were a little further from the back wetland, a little closer to the front wetland. That would have been on a survey map prior to the silt sock being placed. And then, once this was very poorly drained, was confirmed, then we can obtain the full 25 feet to be 25.4. So that's the final resting spot for the garage.
Was there a consideration to reduce the size or shift that even closer to the, away from those?
So the original plan for the garage was 36 by 24 to be a 3-stall garage. So the garage here today at 24 by 24 is reduced in size, and as Chairman Bonser was saying, it's not an overly sized 2-stall garage.
And a lot of that is driven by, wanting to stay out of that 25-foot no disturbance. Because obviously the bigger the garage, it's really tight in there as it is. You couldn't put that shed back that's there right now back in there without a variance, because the whole thing is, the protected upland buffer one way or another. But reducing it from the 36-foot down to the 24 by 24, keeping it out of the 25-foot no disturbance relative to the poorly drained, while also keeping it as far away from the poorly drained in the rear as possible, is, trying to thread a needle. But we think it's a modestly sized garage, less than what they were hoping for initially, but I think it's strikes a fair balance. And I think what you see there is sort of the culmination of all of those sorts of things.
And we've got it looks like either 2 existing sheds or 1 shed that's being relocated, or I'm not sure what's happening with, is there 2 sheds?
There's
Is there
2
one
sheds there now,
relocated? So
and
they-
one's being removed,
Right.
and the other
One's
one,
more of a portable, the vinyl kind.
the one being removed is the one that's right smack dab in the center of the proposed garage footprint. And then there's one just to the west of that's there already, that'll stay.
So there won't be any construction or anything like that around that existing shed that's gonna stay?
No, and then you can see the proposed silt sock that actually sort of circles the entire proposed garage footprint. All sort of wraps all the way around it, in between both sets of wetlands, and even going out there in the backyard towards the driveway.
Thank you.
Never considered trying to attach, because it would mess you up attach the garage to the house.
I think it makes it closer, the house is closer to the wetlands, the very
The
wet
wetland
part.
in the front.
Yeah. Yeah,
There is
so
wetland.
that's what I think.
We were talking about that, but
Yeah.
because of that.
I didn't know if it was because of your exit
No.
on your house
Yeah.
or something.
No, it's because of that it would
Yeah,
bring
there
it
is
closer.
wetlands, there is wetlands.
Yeah, how
on
it
the left
curves
as you come
in,
into
yeah,
town.
so that would be closer to the wetlands if it was attached to our house. So this is gonna be a little bit behind the house, like kitty corner.
And again, I think, it's the most logical area too, because it's already disturbed to a decent extent between the shed that's there, and then they're actually building over a portion of the existing driveway rather than disturbing, grass or raw land or whatever, so.
We also have our one Christmas tree that survived, which is like umpteen feet high, which is gonna go, it has to go for the garage. So we're sacrificing our Christmas tree for the garage.
So the only question I actually have is really construction related, and I think what I'm gonna say probably is also maybe a good, even though we're in a drought situation right now, I could see how wet it is out there. I did go by myself, but I know, well, I'm assuming, I should ask the question, but my assumption is that you'd be digging frost walls for the garage. And so, you know, chances of finding water are pretty possible. So the closer you are to the drier part of the season, the better, I think.
August, September tends to be pretty dry, right? So that should line up perfectly with the end of the turtle situation and then going into sort of the latter half of the summer into the early fall.
Your garage is 24 by 24? Because in this letter to the Conservation Commission, it says 24 by 26?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it's 24 by 24. It's what's shown on the plan and
I was trying to see it, but
what's
my,
set forth in our
Yeah, it's
application.
Yeah.
That might just be a typo.
because it's not in the application that I noticed quickly,
I think I put it in
24 by
there.
24.
Yeah, well, it's shown as 24 by 24 on the plan, and then I think if you look in the narrative that's attached to the application, it's referenced as a 24 by 24 in the second paragraph, about halfway down. So unless there's any other further questions, I'd be happy to just quickly go through the 5 criteria. I'll do the first 2 together, since the court's held many times that they're very closely related. We don't think that granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest and would be consistent with the spirit of the ordinance. As the board knows, this is about whether the proposal would alter the essential character of the area or impact public health, safety, or welfare. The area is predominantly residential. Garages are customarily and typically associated with residential dwellings, and the garages are permitted by right in the area, typical of the area, so would not change the character of the area. Not seeing any threat to public health, safety, or welfare. Again, we're minimizing site disturbances, we're proposing erosion controls, and really doing everything we can in light of the inherent site constraints to preserve the integrity of the wetland. Third criteria, substantial justice, the balancing test between public and private rights and harms. We don't see any meaningful public benefit from denial, just a significant burden on the applicant if denied. The garage is compatible with the neighborhood, and so we think the balance of the equities favors granting the variance. Number 4, I don't believe granting the variance would diminish the values of surrounding properties. Again, this is a typical use, it's a permitted use, it's not unusual or incompatible with the neighborhood. We're not proposing to build closer to abutters and side setbacks or anything like that, such that their values could be compromised. Just the relief because of the wetlands and not even really the wetlands, really just the upland buffers around the wetlands, no direct wetland impacts at all. So we don't think granting the variance would be detrimental to surrounding property values. Number 5, unnecessary hardship. As the board knows, the first thing you're looking at is the special conditions and circumstances of the property. Really a unique wetland configuration here, and those buffers consume essentially all of the building area on the property. All we have is that small sliver of a building envelope in the middle where the leach field is in the backyard, which really is not a viable location for a garage. But we are proposing that garage in an already improved area in terms of the shed, in terms of the existing driveway. So we don't think that literal enforcement would there be a fair and substantial relationship between the purpose and application of the ordinance here. Literal enforcement would prohibit reasonable use of an otherwise suitable upland area. That area is, really the most practical and viable area. Significant portions of the buffer are remaining intact. We don't need to have any sort of extensive grading or anything like that. No additional driveway construction or extension is required, just a limited encroachment into the buffer that won't meaningfully impair water quality or drainage or wildlife habitat, particularly with waiting until second half of the summer before starting construction. And really relocating the garage anywhere else, if we were to, move it further back to the side, you'd have to extend the driveway, you'd have greater site disturbances than what we're currently proposing. So we think it's the best location, it's the most practical location. We're minimizing impacts in that the proposed garage, after being scaled down throughout this process, is really modest in scale and tailored uniquely to the inherent site constraints. So we think the proposed use is reasonable.
Thank you. I see one person in the audience, and we can open up public hearing.
She's our builder.
She's on their
The
team.
builder.
I should have introduced her at the beginning.
Okay, so I'll just put it out there anyway. Anybody here to speak for the application? Oh, and anybody here to speak against? I guess the person in the back row is not either, so we'll close that public hearing. And bring it back to the board for any other discussion.
You had mentioned that the existing shed was already there or part of a separate variance, and maybe the question is, was the variance granted when that existing shed was put in? Because it is not compliant at the moment.
Which one?
I don't know the
I guess
answer to
they'd
that.
both be in the buffer, but
Buffer.
how long have those sheds been there? Long
No.
time.
So,
Although the temporary one's been there for,
in different spots, that was.
right,
on
it
the
was
leach field.
originally a actual shed and then I took that apart thinking we were gonna get a garage, so I put up that temporary one where the garage would go. And the other one is newer.
Because we didn't get the 3-car
I didn't-
garage and winter came, so we needed something to put, because he took down the shed.
Right.
So that shed can be moved, I don't know, it's fairly new. So if it's not meeting requirements, we can have it moved to wherever on the property, because it's a shed, if that's,
Yeah, it qualifies as a structure, so it would be very similar to a
Size-wise.
proposed garage.
Okay.
And so that's actually closer and within
right,
the 25-foot buffer.
right. So I think we thought that the size of it made it not part of that ruling,
Thought it was
but
something they could deliver, so that's my bad. We can move it.
And then another thing is that while the critical area is that 25 feet, the buffer is larger than that. And the buffer isn't just to allow somebody to build within that area. The buffers are put there for ecological reasons. That's a valuable ecological piece in that buffer area. Things live in that area. It's not just the wetlands that's being protected, it's also the protection around that wetland.
Sure. Yeah, but at the same time, not all wetlands are created equal. Certain wetlands
Well, this
are.
one is very poorly drained, and this one's poorly drained.
Well, I
So
don't
yeah,
mean in
They're not
terms.
treated equal.
I don't mean in terms of their hydraulic capabilities or their drainage. I mean in terms of their functions, their values, their.
We didn't have any presentation of any function or values for these wetlands.
Right.
Was one done?
No, not
Okay.
yet. Theoretically, that's something we could produce if the board was interested in it. So
You made the statement so that there was no function or values to this, and
I'm-
don't have any proof for that.
I'm not suggesting that these are high or low functioning value.
You were
wetlands.
suggesting that.
I was not suggesting that. I was suggesting that not all wetlands are created equal, and
But you didn't know which,
the.
if this was a less than or greater than.
It's
equal.
demonstrated by the fact that, one has a 75-foot setback and one has a 50-foot. So, different wetlands are subject to different requirements. Certain wetlands, regardless of whether they're hydric A, hydric B, have different functions, different values. My only point is, we understand that this application and any application to build within the upland buffer around the wetland requires a variance. However, to just say, well, the buffer's there for a reason, we're never gonna make an exception whatsoever because they're there for a reason, I don't think would be the proper analysis. I think it has to be a more holistic picture, and you have to look at the inherent site constraints, all the different wetlands, the size of the garage, the reasonableness of the ask, all the work that's gone into it, you know. That's the only point I was trying to make. I'm not qualified to suggest or comment on the function or value of these wetlands. That was the only point I was trying to make. You know, these folks have lived here for 35 years. They have a modestly sized house and limited storage space. Their property is encumbered by 3 different wetland pockets, and they're doing the best they can under difficult circumstances to try to, you know, make this work.
So
I understand that, and I
retrospectively, it
think
should
they-
have never been probably a piece of property. It's part of a development. And so, you know, this is the property we've had for 35 years, and it's always had all these wetlands up.
So if it's always had those wetlands, then why is there a hardship? I mean,
The hardship is we don't have a garage.
The hardship is literally they can't put a garage anywhere on the property because it's not the wetlands that encumber the property, it's the big buffer around all the wetlands that provide for 0 building envelope. I mean, a hardship is owing to the special conditions of the property. There's no practical reason to strictly apply the ordinance in this particular instance. I mean, this is a pretty unusual property where you have pretty unusual situation where you have 3 separate wetlands pockets subject to 2 different buffers that just completely swallow any building envelope on the property. I mean, that's the purpose of this board. The Supreme Court has said the zoning board is supposed to be the constitutional safety valve when there's oppressive regulations that unduly restrict people's property rights. This board is supposed to be.
this board does.
This board is supposed to be, you know, the safety valve, the relief valve when you have, you know, when you have regulations that just swallow and engulf, you know, any reasonable use of the property. And there's nowhere on this property where this garage could go other than where we've proposed it. And, you know, we think we've done everything we can to stay as far away from the wetlands as we can. And try to tailor the request in a modest and reasonable fashion in light of the inherent site constraints. And the board's job is to look at things and say, okay, you know, maybe we can make an exception in this instance because we are supposed to be this, you know, the safety valve. We are supposed to be the relief valve. You know, you don't just enforce the regulations because they're there for a reason, period, paragraph. It's more than that. That's what this board's job is. So, you know, I think it's a more holistic view.
One thing this board also does is not ignore our ordinances and our regulations.
Of course.
So,
Of course.
I'd just like to ask about Dirk's first comment about the current shed that is it viewed that maybe this new garage can possibly replace that shed?
That shed is new and it can move anywhere in our property. It holds, we didn't get a 3-car garage, we didn't even have a garage, so that holds our snow blower, our generator, et cetera. That can be easily moved to wherever on the property it fits the zoning.
I guess more directly, my question is, because there's such a limited amount of space, where would that be?
Well, no, because a shed is, you know, so my husband was like, a shed doesn't have to be attached to a driveway, it can be in your backyard, it can be in your front yard.
Oh, we put that on top of where like I have some gardens above the leach field area, we'll just sit there.
So someplace out of
Out of that whole zone,
We
yeah,
could put it
yeah,
on top of the hill.
right,
thank you.
yes.
And it sounds like it's more of a movable temporary thing. I don't know, I haven't been out there, I don't know exactly what it consists of, but something that's temporary like that and that's easily movable wouldn't
Right.
typically be considered a structure that's subject to setback requirements or wetland buffer requirements. So it sounds like
I had
there's
read up a little bit and it was about size and that met the, you know, it wasn't in that size requirement
Small
to be
shed.
that. Yeah, it's a small shed,
So that's something
that's what I had read up
So-
on.
also our code
We can do what you
enforcement would
want us
know.
to do in
Yeah.
that regard.
Yeah, we're happy to move
we
it.
could double check with Dale on that.
Yeah.
And make sure that anything that's there storage wise, other than,
Right, because under a certain size, a shed is not permitted, but
Right.
over a certain size it is.
Right,
but we can make sure to,
I'm happy
we
to
can
move
make
it.
sure to double check with Dale to make sure that anything that's there is zoning compliant, and if it's not, that it gets brought into compliance. plans or moved.
I mean, if you look at your tax card, you're valued at $221,500. I mean, that's like, they must not consider any wetlands in there. They seem to value this lot as if it's all uplands and,
Yeah.
perfect lot.
Yeah, we
so-
pay the tax on it,
It's,
usable.
it's a rough lot. It's quiet.
Do you have any other comments or questions on this application? I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve this case 25004, variance for Dudley on 147 Mitchell Road, a scenic road, application of Robert and Angela Dudley, trustees of the Dudley Family Trust, requesting a variance from Article 3, Section B2 of the Nottingham zoning ordinance to permit construction of a new garage 21.7 feet from the quarry drain soil where a 50-foot setback is required and 25.4 feet from the very poorly drained soil where a 75-foot setback is required. The applicant, and I'd like to add that the sheds, you'll check with Dale, see what you have to do with them, move them or remove them. The application, the applicant's property is located at 147 Mitchell Road, a scenic road in Nottingham, New Hampshire, and is identified as tax map 7 lot 8-14.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Seeing none. We have no second for that motion. And
That's all right. This board should be ashamed of himself for, these people are coming into a garage. It's not a massive thing. They're on a small, they got a 2-acre lot with a lot of wetlands. It's not their fault.
need a second to even move this.
Can you second it?
I think I can, I'm not sure about that, but I guess go ahead and do that. So yeah, I'll second that motion. As stated. All in favor? Aye. Against? So we have 2-4,
Tied.
2 against and 1 abstention.
It's a tie, doesn't count.
Me?
It is a tie.
Yeah,
It
The
doesn't
motion,
count.
that
the
one
motion
passed,
fails, it's
yeah.
just no
Yeah.
action. Well, is anyone missing, is there anyone missing from the board who's not here tonight that votes usually? I know you guys had a situation here at the beginning where you lost a member, but,
We only have 5 members vote,
right?
Yeah,
so we have alternates. They can be part of the discussion, but
I'm just saying, is everyone who is on the board, alternate or full member, here tonight?
we're either, yeah.
well,
Full
yeah,
member.
we
I
have
mean,
5.
No, I mean, sometimes some people are on the board, but they can't make it.
Right, we're missing one regular.
What's the
and then-
relevance of that?
Missing one, yeah.
and
Well, it's a
then the
stalemate right now.
But there's sitting 5 members.
Yeah, so
We have a
that's,
sitting 5-member board. We don't have, if there's 6 members here, we still have 5 members.
Okay. I understand.
We wouldn't seat the alternates.
But if we come back next month because the board can't make a decision tonight, and it's the same 5 members, we're stuck. Unless there's things, is from the members who are not in favor of the approval. I've had this happen before where just because someone doesn't vote in favor of an approval doesn't necessarily mean they want to deny it. They may want to continue it, get more information, see if we can make some changes to the plan, come back with additional information or something else. So I guess my request would be from the members who did not vote to approve. Is there something you would like us to see? Is there something you would like to see or something you would like us to consider that you haven't seen tonight? That would help maybe move the needle?
For me, I've provided all the comments in my discussion.
I wouldn't mind hearing more about the wetlands and hearing, we have a letter from Sam, but it's not strongly in favor of it. So I have a concern that the Conservation Commission has a concern.
I can speak for the Conservation Commission since I'm on that. We were very concerned about the setbacks and the fact that we had a very difficult time getting the actual classification for those wetland areas. And in fact, we even had the special meeting and we had the phone conversation and still we didn't have a precise classification for those wetlands. It was like, we felt, are you hiding something? Just tell us what they are and be done with this. And a 75-foot setback for a very poorly drained hydric A system is significant because the plants and all of that help to regulate the water table. It's very anaerobic, it's a very special like soil profile. And when you start messing with that, you're just going to get more pooling, increased chances of flooding, and you're going to be disturbing wildlife habitat. I know some people don't care about the wildlife habitat part, but the pooling and the flooding should be of concern to the landowner as well. Because where there is a wetland now, if you're making more hardscape and there's less vegetation, then this water is going to go one place, right into your more permanent hydric A area, and then it's going to back up. So we were just very, very concerned about the whole ecosystem aspect of this, and then what could potentially happen to the owners.
So would a revisit to Conservation Commission with the wetland scientists who did the delineation and the soils classification help that conversation?
I guess you would have to address our chair and vice chair on that. I'm just a member.
Now, would that change Dirk's?
So, yeah, I would suggest contact the Conservation Commission and see if they might be able to help you change something.
Now, we can get on their agenda and go before them with this plan and have a conversation and rekindle that recommendation now that some of the communication issues are worked out. But is the board favorable to that? I mean,
Does the board does the board in general think that would be helpful? Because what we don't want to do is spend a bunch more of their money going to Conservation Commission if the board doesn't think that's gonna actually be relevant to their decision,
My comments were regarding the location and relative to that buffer, not the significance of the wetland. So that's what I'll say about that. I mentioned my comments in my discussion.
Do you think there's a better location?
If we went
I'm
deeper
not gonna
down.
provide you answers. This is, you're the applicant to come present to us.
I know, we're trying to work with you though here, it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. We're trying to do the best we can on a tough
This
lot.
isn't a negotiation either.
I'm just trying to be cognizant, I'm trying to be cognizant of my client's time and money, I think that's respectable. And we don't wanna spin our wheels if going to the Conservation Commission isn't going to be relevant to the board's decision.
but I'm not gonna sit here for myself and say I'm going to vote one way or the other without not having that
Not
information.
asking you to do that.
That's kind of what you asked me.
Okay, so.
What would it take for Dirk to say yes, to satisfy
I'm
my
just asking,
want?
what would Dirk think is relevant? That's to his decision.
And I said what my comments were in my discussion. So if you take notes, understand that, you can address that however you like.
Well, unfortunately, so the case is closed and you can pursue.
Well, we need a motion to continue, otherwise we're gonna have to resubmit and everything. So if you guys could continue it to the June meeting. And just announce on the record what the date and time of that meeting is, so we don't have to renotice the butters and everything, that would be appreciated.
So you'd like us to continue
Continue, yeah.
or rehear
Is
it?
that after?
Because we didn't make a decision, it was a tie. I make a motion that we continue this hearing to the next meeting to save them money from renoticing and
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
And do we know what the date and time of the June meeting is?
It's usually the third Tuesday,
16th.
the 16th. Thank you.
16? Okay.
I'd like to ask a question. What if conservation still has concerns about this and does not come out strongly in favor or change its mind? I can't speak for the whole group. I'm just saying what if.
We address that at that
Continue for
time.
another round of vote.
Okay,
That's right.
so it really,
And we'll have some alternate plans too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bear with me, I'm trying to find the minutes. I know we have minutes to approve.
I can always learn your mind.
If I have the correct ones.
One set and then the other set is in the binder.
That's what they are.
Are they the same?
No,
No, okay.
no, one is from March's meeting and the other one is from
Oh, our other meeting.
the other meeting. I forget what you called it, that special meeting.
Yeah, the March one was from when we elected officers and that initial meeting. We also heard a couple hearings. I got a chance to read through it, and I didn't have any issues.
It looked fine to me too. I obviously didn't read this one.
So I'd make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from March 17th, 2026.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll stay. I
One
wasn't on the
abstention.
board.
So, May 12th. is the other.
That was a 7-minute, 30-second meeting.
That's
Quickest
right,
meeting I ever saw.
that was quick.
I just read through these pretty quickly. I don't have an issue if there's other folks that want more time. I think it accurately reflects the meeting. So
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from May 12th, 2026.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have any other business? Any comments?
There was a resignation
Tracy.
letter from
Yeah, we
Robert
got it.
DeRoche.
Accept that.
It should be in the other section of the binder.
It is.
is that a voting thing? Do we need to make a motion to accept it?
Yeah, do we need to accept that? I guess we,
I think you do have to accept it.
All right, I make a motion that we accept the March 18th letter of resignation from Robert DeRoche.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unless anybody has anything else?
I just want a clarification, so when we just kind of shuffled seats here, you would sit, so we're down one member, and Bonnie, you had said we're appointing Terry and Sue, and Mary, I'm sorry,
To sit as
to
voting
sit as
members.
voting members for this meeting?
Yes, for this
Okay,
meeting,
because wouldn't we have to also
for the next meeting.
for the next meeting, or,
You know, I've never seen that happen. I've been on this board a long time.
Yeah. I mean, we can address it in next meeting, you know,
So we're really short, really down.
we're down one full member.
One and.
Well,
one
Romeo
is-
wasn't here, so that.
Yeah, Romeo's not here, so.
Can we replace Teresa somehow?
Well,
Without a
if it
special,
was, if it was a planning board, you can appoint them,
That's
and
what I thought.
they would continue that term that that person had, but that person also would, has to volunteer to do that. An alternate would have to volunteer to do this.
So we would probably advertise for, that we're looking for somebody to fill a seat.
That's,
I think
we've
that,
done that too,
Yeah.
you know, asking us,
I think we should look up the statute
Might be a
first.
little different on the ZBA.
it might be, I think
I'll
we
have
should
to
look at that.
There's
Yeah, well,
statutes
we'll
about
Look it up and
everything.
address it next meeting.
Well, can I add to the confusion? When I ran as a write-in, I was elected, but then they discovered there was an error. And instead of 2 positions that were open, there was only 1 position open. And so hence I was appointed as an alternate. So I was elected.
oh, so you actually were elected as a member?
Yeah, I got up in the morning and I looked and I said, I got 100+ votes. And then it said, not elected. And I said, how can that be? It was stunning.
That
You
was
did
an error.
everything right.
It was funny. It was funny.
Yeah,
Do you get this?
All right,
Do you
well,
get Teresa's
I
gavel?
don't wanna speak for
Wait,
that, but we'll wait and
wait.
figure
Is that
it out.
hers?
pardon me?
Is this Teresa's?
But I'm
I
just
thought it
saying.
was here,
It stays on the,
Maybe it's for every board.
that one
I
stays on
think
the,
so.
Never had
yeah,
one
it
as
stays at the
mother.
table.
Oh, yeah,
You
that's
got more
here.
Yeah, it
votes.
stays at the table.
But you weren't a
That's
write-in.
for all the boards.
That's true. Everybody gets to use it.
That's a big harder challenge.
All right, so, just, make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
A second.
All in favor?
All right?
Aye.
I get to use that once.